You have to be a Cherry Marine to get to the top.
In this world, accessible of kindness and ethical blindness. So please excuse my sarcastic tone. I'm a bit underwhelmed by the sample shown. Mr. Bistro fraternity guy, you got my asshole with bloodshot eyes. Get drunk and fight every night. Idolize Bradley, belittle women's rights. Homophobic, racist, and don't give a fucking hey. Do you think you can drive a bigger truck? So wear your baseball cap to the side to let everyone know that you're a nice guy. So cool, was so impressed. Lots of chicks and a barrel chest. Cause you're a real man. Punch for punch, gonna piss in your face while you're passed out drunk. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. She's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. Nice guys rule the planets. I just can't understand it. What could divine by deception and lies? Social Darwinism and an overdose of pride. Fuck off, jerk off. I don't wanna hear it. Fuck off, jerk off. Read into the lyrics, cause everybody gets their just desserts. As long as you remember that nice guys finish Mr. Whitebeater, you're next on the list. Such a nice guy who speaks through his fists. Prick with a penchant for messing with heads. A broken nose for dinner and breakfast in bed. Alcoholic, paranoid, and suicidal too. But you'll probably kill her before she gets away from you. She's in a blue blood and crying. All your friends say that you're a nice guy. Have a drink, this one's on me. Look, you're doing fine, losing to your disease. Comatose, I'll pack your bags. Bury you like a tree that guy. Oh, I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. We're all nice guys, but all of you are assholes. He's a nice guy, she's a nice guy. Hey, Tom Bo's a nice guy. All of you are assholes. Nice guys rule the planet. The public commented. How could a body by deception and lies? Social Darwinism and an overdose of pride. Fuck off, jerk off. I don't wanna hear it. Fuck off, jerk off. Read into the lyrics. Don't let the fucking pill quench your thirst. As long as you remember that nice guys finish first.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Plex. We do the show live every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/EchoPlex Media. Also simulcasting to other places that nobody watches the show, so they don't matter. You can support this project at echoplexmedia.com. Click the support tab and pick your favorite way. I like direct cash money, but the merch is good. Patreon is good. Memberships through eplex.store are good. And of course, if you don't want to give me any money, you're like, that guy's a grifter, just tell a friend if you like the show. I'd appreciate it. Producer Dave, you can find me on Grindr, and I am here to remind you that
everything's fine, and everything's fine, and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine, and everything's fine, and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine, and everything's fine, and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine, and everything's what do you do? Sorry I'm late, I kept hitting snooze. It's just one of those days. You know what they say. It is what it is. Ignorance is bliss. When it rains, it pours. Couldn't ask for more. What goes around comes around, all in good time. I guess that your guess is as good as mine. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine. I hope you have a real nice day. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine and it's great. Thanks. Everything's fine and everything's fine. I hope you have a real nice day.
All right. Well, our first story this week is this is kind of fucked up. I'll just let it roll, and you can see what I'm talking about.
News 15 Investigates has uncovered a former deacon in the Diocese of Lafayette whose son was abused by a priest has been excommunicated from the Catholic Church. Tonight, my exclusive conversation with Scott Payton, who worries that penalty by the church sends a harmful message. Scott Payton had worked as a deacon in the Diocese of Lafayette since 2012. For about 5 years, he celebrated Mass alongside Father Michael Guidry, the man who would later plead guilty to molesting Payton's teenage son. This past December, about 3 years after Guidry was sent to prison, Payton resigned as a deacon, and he and his family left the Catholic Church.
It was cumulative over the years. In hindsight, I probably should have done it sooner for my own personal healing. But I cannot be a part of an organization that doesn't live up to the ideals that it professes.
But this week, months after he resigned, Payton received this letter from Lafayette Bishop J. Douglas Desatel.
It was a decree of excommunication. Excommunication means that we are no longer part of the community of the church. I cannot receive any of the sacraments within the church. And it basically severs my relationship with the church.
In the letter, Bishop Desatel wrote he was compelled by canon or church law to excommunicate Payton for severing ties to the Catholic Church. The bishop wrote the excommunication was intended to be medicinal.
To my knowledge,
It's just a medicinal excommunication among
nor has
friends.
he been laicized. And if molesting a child is not grave enough to be excommunicated, but telling the bishop that I don't agree with how he's running the diocese and how the church is handling the sexual abuse crisis, if that's a grave sin, then I guess I'll wear the badge of excommunication with honor.
Payton and his family have moved on and joined an Anglican church, but he has a message for the church he leaves behind.
The hypocrisy in this excommunication speaks volumes about the leadership of Bishop Desatel. I think he should resign his leadership, and those that are running this diocese behind the scenes should step down along with him.
I did reach out to the Diocese of Lafayette for comment about some of what Payton had to say, including if Father Michael Guidry, again, his son's abuser, has been excommunicated. I'll let you know if I hear back.
You won't. What a fucked up. This was Scientology shit, right? They're like, oh, you spoke out against us. Well, now fuck you. You can't have anything to do with us. That's just straight up cult shit. You know, we talk a lot of shit on Scientology, but they don't have a monopoly on that fucking crazy behavior like other religious groups, etc. Do it too.
Mr. Bobulinski, I
Wait, what the hell? Hold on. How did I got logged out of Twitter? Everybody, did you know that this show is live? Did you know that this show is live? I have to log back into my Twitter to do my show. All right, let's try this again. Up next, we got AOC versus Tony Bobulinski regarding the Biden family crimes. This is in a House hearing, and let's check it out.
York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bobulinski, I heard your opening statement. It's submitted to the record, part of our proceedings. I have a quick question. Simple. Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business deal.
Did you witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is it? What is the crime, sir? Specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar.
No, this guy's not this guy doesn't understand. This guy's got fucking podcast brain. This guy thinks that you need to, that you're supposed to be there with a long-winded answer. What you do is you go, yes. They go, what crime? You go, I don't know the exact statute, but I believe he committed bribery. Like, you come on. This is how this works. This is not your time. This is their time. You don't get to go in there and give a speech.
Corruption
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the crime?
It's a category of crimes that you're then charged
You
under
have charges.
a long 100
You
list
have
of
charges. Sir, please
want me to name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
All right, sir. I reclaim my
lawyers
time.
that went to law school.
I reclaim my time.
You guys
okay,
to
thank
define
you,
the
sir. I
statute
reclaim my
under
time.
RICO.
Clearly, what we are seeing here today is a continuation of the 15-month saga of the Republican majority lost in the desert. Impeachment 101. The majority party, or whomever is raising impeachment, must accuse the president of a high crime, a specific high crime or misdemeanor. I would like to submit to the record HRES 918, the House resolution to open this impeachment inquiry.
Without objection to order.
This resolution does not outline a high crime or misdemeanor. It's not here. Now, when we compare the chairman's opening from his previous opening, he's talking about Ukraine and Burisma and all of this. This entire inquiry is based on a blockbuster piece of information that was in a classified SCIF room. And inside that room was a document alleging President Biden directly of a $10 million bribery scheme, a $10 million bribery scheme, extremely serious. What happened? What happened a month ago, Mr. Chairman? That document, the FBI arrested the person who offered those allegations for falsifying his testimony to the FBI. This entire impeachment inquiry is based on an actual, provable individual who has lied. Now, responsible leadership would withdraw an inquiry based on that. Withdraw it. Instead, what we are seeing is that this committee was warned about the falsehoods of these allegations long before that, warned by Trump's Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and yet they proceeded anyway. The chairman proceeded anyway. This committee was warned by Rudy Giuliani associate right here, Lev Parnas, after that document about the falsehoods of this. Then held hearings where your own expert witnesses said that there was no grounds for impeachment, and you proceeded anyway. And finally, as if none of this was enough, the FBI arrested the individual who was the source of the entire, to quote the chairman, heart of the matter, to launch this impeachment inquiry, and proceeded anyway. At this point, the story is not the fact that the basis of this impeachment inquiry is wrong. The story is why it's proceeding anyway. Why is this committee proceeding based on false charges? And by the way, no charges. I have yet to hear in the chairman's opening the allegation that they are specifically charging the President of the United States with. I'm hearing about Biden family. I'm hearing about this and that. I am not hearing the specific allegation by this committee. What is it? It's not here. And that is the problem. The story is when this committee knew that they were working with falsified evidence. That's the story. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady.
Hell yeah. I like how the Speaker of the House was over there like texting while she was fucking talking. But I mean, she's right. Like, we've seen this over and over again. These people go there, oh, it was all the crimes. And you go, well, which, if it was all of them, you could name one. And they'd go, well, but there's some racketeering. Like, racketeering is like, what did they do? You don't need to be a legal expert and go up there and give them the like US code or like the state law that they broke. You just go, oh, the president took a bribe from this person. That's it. If that's the allegation, that's the allegation. But that's no longer the allegation. So this is just a fucking dog and pony show. Or every president's fucking crooked, but like you have to be a certain amount of crooked to get in any kind of trouble, really, if you're the president. And it seems like the bar is pretty fucking high, apparently. So up next, people were, this is more AOC, people were a little less than happy with her about her messaging and handling of the crisis in Gaza. And by the crisis in Gaza, I mean ethnic cleansing, possibly, probably. Well, AOC seems to have turned the corner on that. Let's check out this clip from March 22nd, a couple days ago.
In this moment, 1.1 million innocents in Gaza are at famine's door. A famine that is being intentionally precipitated through the blocking of food and global humanitarian assistance by leaders in the Israeli government. This is a mass starvation of people, engineered and orchestrated, following the killing of another 30,000, 70% of whom were women and children killed. If you want to know what an unfolding genocide looks like, open your eyes. It looks like the forced famine of 1.1 million innocents. It looks like thousands of children eating grass as their bodies consume themselves while trucks of food are slowed and halted just miles away. It looks like good and decent people who do nothing, or too little, too late. It is against United States law to provide weapons to forces who block United States humanitarian assistance. And that is exactly what is happening right now. So much so that the president himself stated during the State of the Union that the United States must and will be building its own port to let aid through. It will be too late. The time is now to force compliance with U.S. law and the standards of humanity and fulfill our obligations to the American people to suspend the transfer of U.S. weapons to the Israeli government in order to stop and prevent further atrocity.
One by one, people are starting to figure out that this is not a great thing to be co-signing. I'm surprised actually that it took AOC this long. For a long time, Ilhan Omar was out there on that limb kind of all by herself, actually, and that fucking sucked. That fucking sucked. So it's good to see that, and hopefully we'll see more of the Democratic Party get right on this issue, because this is, how long has it been since it was October 7th? Was it? How long has it been? How long is this sustained bombing and how long has this massacre been going on? This is not even, at some point you can't even call it like revenge. Like the first day of bombing, you could have maybe called it retaliation. The second day, you're like, oh, why are you still doing that? Third day, you're like, oh, now you're getting revenge. And by like that fifth or sixth day, you're like, something else is going on here. This is something else. You're wilding out now. And I just can't believe that fucking the Democratic Party has been largely silent in the better cases and in the worst cases complicit in this. If this was any other nation doing this to any other group of people, this wouldn't be how this was happening. The United States needs to quickly and dramatically reconsider the special relationship that we have with the nation state of Israel. Because we're the only ones that can stop this. That sucks too, actually. Up next, we got Gavin Newsom. I believe definitely going to be running in 2028. He's talking about RFK Jr., who he, I guess, used to be friends with. And, well, not anymore.
Bobby Jr. and I'll be fully candid. He was really one of my great inspirations on the environment. Junior. Yeah. No one better on the stump. In fact, it comes back. He has the old stump. He uses it
I see
today.
it, right.
It's exactly what he was saying 20 years ago. And it's evocative. It's a spiritual frame. It's beautiful. It's profound. It's consequential in terms of reaching out to the other side. So there's that aspects I hold on to. Then he loses me on many others, including some personal shots he took around vaccines and suggesting somehow that I got ill. There was a lot of very curious things where I knew the spectrum, that he was sort of veering off on the spectrum. His sight was
I gotta
veering
think
off.
this personally just bothers you.
It
What's happened with
disappointed.
him? It's like losing a friend, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's a reverential aspect to it. Of course, we disagree on Sirhan's release as well, and many different things. So look, I wish him only the best. I mean that. I have great respect for him and his kids and his wife. But boy, his politics has shifted, and I just don't buy it. When I'm seeing her, watching him on Tucker and watching him on all these
Steve Bannon
and everything else.
He's being used?
He's smart enough not to be used, but he knows what he's doing, and he's being used. Both ends.
Interesting.
I didn't know that was from September 2023, but shout out to whoever put that up there and marked it that way. So I thought that was the first time he had mentioned RFK Jr. But yeah, we're looking at we're probably looking at the 2028 Democratic nominee just based on everything he's been doing. It's pretty clear to me that that's where he's headed next, because I do think he terms out pretty soon. So it'll be interesting to see the governor's race in California too, to see because it'll be a Democrat, and it'll be interesting to see if it's someone from the more progressive sort of labor wing of the California politics, or if it's going to be from the corporate, what they call moderate wing of the Democratic Party. Up next, Tomi Lahren. I'm not happy to see her back. Although some of the times when we've been playing clips of her lately, she's been less crazy than the other people over there at Fox. But here's her saying that the January 6th was predetermined by the Democrats to gain power in some way.
So according to Democrats, your life is so much better under Biden, you just don't realize it. You're not smart enough to figure it out. All right, here with reaction, we have the host of Outkicks, Tomi Lahren is Fierce. Tomi Lahren, along with Fox News contributors, Charlie Hurt, Joe Concha, both with us. Okay, we begin with you, Tomi Lahren. Here's the interesting thing as you look at, we learned this story. Remember, they had a hearsay witness in the January 6th committee claiming that Donald Trump tried to commandeer the car away from the Secret Service driver. One problem, the Secret Service driver was actually interviewed by the January 6th committee. We only found out recently this happened. Then we learned that apparently there's a lot of missing documents. Now we have Chris Miller saying not only what he said on this program, along with the president, Kash Patel, and Mark Meadows, and confirmed by General Milley, the 5 people in the room in the days leading up to January 6th, they're all saying, yeah, he wanted to authorize the guard troops. That story was not told the American people. It gives this whole story an entirely different context. I always said this had a predetermined.
So they're leaving some stuff out here. The working theory, and I don't know if it's true, but one of the working theories is that he wanted the National Guard there because he thought the National Guard would take his side. I don't know if that's true, but that's one of the things I sort of hear floating around out there in the ether.
I think this now definitively proves it. On top of the Capitol Police Chief's son, who said he requested it repeatedly and was declined the guard. Your reaction?
Not only does this committee seem like it had a predetermined outcome, January 6th itself seems like it had a predetermined, pre-planned outcome. It would seem as though that there are certain folks on
some Alex Jones shit.
The left and the right that wanted this to happen. Why else would they put the Capitol in a vulnerable position, knowing good and well that something could happen, something horrible could happen? That was a horrible day. Let's not mince words. It wasn't a good day for Trump supporters. It wasn't a good day for Republicans. It wasn't a good day for our country. But it really makes you wonder, Sean, what else they're hiding about that day that they don't want the American public and the American people to know, because a lot of their cases, their lawfare against Donald Trump revolves around January 6th and these so-called insurrection.
Ooh, I don't think so. I think the doozy against this guy is Georgia.
So if there were more information given to the American people, more truth, more transparency, then a lot of this BS against Donald Trump would simply fall apart, as it's actually doing on its own. But I also am concerned, Donald Trump is a very wealthy man. We know that he's saying he's got all this money, but his PAC, his Save America PAC, is hemorrhaging $230,000 a day in February on legal fees. So it's quite obvious they're trying to bleed him dry of his money, of his war chest. They don't want him out campaigning. They don't want him to have money to spend on his campaign. They want to tie him down in this lawfare. They want to ruin his reputation with the American people. And even though I believe the American people see through a lot of this, there are a lot of independents out there that, although they think Donald Trump is innocent, they don't want to deal with the circus anymore. And that's exactly what the Democrats want. They want to ruin this man. They want to keep a circus around him always to dissuade independents from re-electing him into the White House. This is always what this has been about. And unfortunately, their strategy is multi-pronged. And unfortunately, in some cases, it's working. And that's the terrifying part of all this. Their plan is working.
So that's politics. You use whatever you can. I mean, if you got a two-party system, you just do whatever you can to tear down the leader of the other party. I don't know what the fuck that's what you do. I don't know what else you're supposed to do. You can't, politics is about spectacle and personality. It's not about policy. It just isn't. Some of us care about policy, but most people just, the old adage, I want a president I can have a beer with. I mean, that's crazy. But it was funny because they said that about George W. Bush, even though he quit drinking. But, actually, I'd go on a bender with George W. Bush. Let's be fair. That'd be a lot of fun. I don't think that the Attorney General of Georgia that they're going after. I don't think they're going after Trump to tear him down. I think they believe that he broke some of Georgia's RICO statutes. Some of that was withdrawn from the case by the judge, but the judge didn't. You might want to check out, if you're interested in it, check out Legal Eagle's breakdown of it. But the judge basically said that some of the language was not specific enough that they could refile some of the stuff, but he didn't take out all of it, and he didn't take out the I guess the most important parts. But if you were to look, you would see a lot of people who are Donald Trump supporters saying that the judge threw out the case, and that's just not true. Up next, we got a news hit from Fox's Outnumbered, and apparently Marjorie the Gathering is trying to remove the current Speaker of the House. I swear to you, the Republicans are going to have more House speakers than Shasta County has had lawyers if we keep going at this rate.
Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "I have not talked to President Trump about this." Largely, President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson have had a great relationship. Speaker Mike Johnson just put out a tweet congratulating him on securing the nomination. Seems like a pretty big voice you'd want to get input from, since he's the titular head of the party at the moment.
I feel we are seeing yet another tantrum by a tiny faction of that conference that is disrupting the entire machine that we just exhaustively waited for to get back on track. And here we are again, watching someone steal the time, steal the audio, steal the limelight, steal the attention, She says we should have our attention on the illegals streaming across the border, on a million other things. No, our attention was on you while you gave a presser. I'm sick and tired of it.
So one thing I don't like is this: a lot of people, a lot of news outlets do this. They act like you can only really think about one thing. They're like, oh no, somebody held a press conference. That means people aren't thinking about the other issues. Well, that's not true. This is dumb.
As an American citizen, I want them to get to work. I love Speaker Johnson. Who would be better than him, MTG? What is your plan? And I don't want my legislature taking 2 days up to vote for that, to figure everything out, to look incompetent during a presidential election year. This is the last thing I want to be subjected with. This is, it's frankly, at a minimum, it's disappointing.
There's a great irony here, Carly. As I'm listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I hear her say, there's a video that everyone is focused on. That video is of illegal immigrants rushing our border. It is a video about 6 minutes ago we were set to play. It is a video that you're not seeing right now because instead we are talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, then aren't you the problem, not Marjorie Taylor Greene? Like, assuming that the way that you're characterizing this video is accurate, then isn't this more important than Marjorie the Gathering saying something stupid?
It raises the question, she didn't make this live, so nothing happens for 2 weeks. Is this a fundraising exercise so you can go back to your district for 2 weeks and fundraise off of it? What's the motive here? I get you're not in her head, but what's the motive?
Yeah, well, I think the motive in part could be, this reminds me a lot of this scrum of media around Marjorie Taylor Greene. It reminds me of a lot of what happened with Matt Gaetz when he did this to Kevin McCarthy. You become the most powerful person in Washington during that period of time. So that could be a part of her motive. Another part of the motive might also be because she doesn't like the spending bill, and that's what she'll say when she gets booked on conservative shows to talk about this. Mike Johnson is not, what did she say, an arm of the Democratic Party in terms of policy. He is a strong conservative. I think what's happening with him, I think anybody who becomes House Speaker, it's a very big challenge, especially when you're dealing with such a slim majority. And he
and with absolute fucking crazy fucks. Let's not forget that. Just absolute fucking crazy fucks. Like, I think, fuck Mike Johnson. He's getting what he deserves.
Avoid a government shutdown. And now look at what's happening as a result.
Marie, and you're probably thrilled because we were set to talk about what I would argue are the disastrous Biden border policies. Speaker Mike Johnson, do you guys claim him in the Democratic Party as was asserted by Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, we certainly do not. Thank you for making that point. But he has acted in a responsible manner as Speaker. He's trying to keep the government open with this spending bill. He's trying to get conservative Republican priorities into it when you have a divided government where Democrats control the White House and the Senate. So he is doing his job. I don't agree with many of those priorities, but he is doing his job. And you know who else is so frustrated with this chaos in the Republican caucus is voters and the American people. And they have to go to voters in not that many months and say, let us keep control of the House of Representatives. And they have to make a case for what they will do with that power. And all they have to talk about right now is potential government shutdowns. It's not getting anything done because they keep kicking their speaker out. They are a caucus in chaos. And the majority is very slim. Democrats overperformed in the midterms. Republicans only won the House by a few votes. And right now, sitting here, this is more Republican chaos. That is a terrible message for government and the American people.
And if there's a 2-seat majority, you raise the prospect of a potential Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
Hell yeah.
I don't think is the intended outcome for Marjorie Taylor Greene or anyone in the Republican Party, but we will see.
Hell yeah. Let's get Hakeem Jeffries in there. That'd be great. These people would lose their minds, right? They'd fucking, they would immediately they'd be like, oh, Hakeem sounds Muslim-y to me. It would just immediately start calling him a fucking terrorist and shit. It would be absolute fucking chaos. And it would just be another dumbass thing they do that alienates like more people than maybe they would have previously expected it to. Up next, sort of in the same realm, even this Newsmax host doesn't really think that Jim Jordan's the kind of guy who can get anything done. That's pretty crazy when the Newsmax host is like skeptical of you. Oh, great website you got over there, Elon. Let's try this again. Oh, man. Again, folks listening on Spotify and whatnot, the show is live.
Is impeachment the next step? Are you going to hold a vote on the House floor. I know it's up to Mike Johnson, but the margins, Congressman, you lost Kevin McCarthy. Ken Buck left last week. George Santos was ousted. Unless you get Democratic votes, this is going to be real tough. So it kind of seems like you're chasing your tail at this point because this is not going to go anywhere.
No, fair question. And we got a small majority. Everyone understands that, not just on this issue, but on a host of issues. Our job is, under the Constitution, is to do oversight of the executive branch. We are doing that. We're going to continue to do that. There's no time limit in the Constitution on how long you can do an investigation.
There's no time limit on how long no shit, dude. You look into something for as long as you want. That's so funny that the fucking Newsmax guy is like, dude, why are you acting so crazy, man? Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? This doesn't look like you're getting anything done. Fucking Newsmax, dude. Fucking Newsmax. I don't know though. We've been seeing more, I wouldn't say reasonable, but I guess more or less crazy stuff from Newsmax. Maybe they're trying to maybe they're trying to pivot to not being so like far out there. I don't know. It's possible. Who knows? Anyway, up next we got I guess we got Larry Kudrow. I just asked some random rich guy on fucking Fox Business if he can help loan Trump money for to post bond or something. Pretty fucking crazy.
But Kevin O'Leary, I think this is where it's going to go. Now, I was wondering, if he can't get to the Supreme Court, will you loan him the $460 million? Just to help, in order to protect America's name. Think of it that way.
To get the bond, he was able to get the $90+ million from Chubb.
Yeah.
I don't know of a bond more than $90 million. I don't recall one.
Yeah.
And so you need cash to back up the bond insurance. And so now we're talking about the terminology of seizing assets. That's foreign language to an American investor.
Right.
They want due process.
Right.
They want the appeal. That sounds like Venezuela. It sounds like Cuba. Mm-hmm. It's a really bad look for New York, but I think it's gone beyond New York now. Bipartisan participants and financial services managers are not okay with this.
Right.
And getting very uncomfortable. And I think whether it's the Supreme Court that provides the adult supervision, whether it's somebody else, we desperately need for this kid's party for the adults to get home.
Yeah.
We need them to come home now.
Some appellate court.
So this is dumb. He lost the appeal for basically the bond. It's not a criminal case. He's not going to jail. The appeal is pending, but the reason that he needs to post a bond against the judgment is so that the court has the bond against the judgment. And if he can't post that bond, the court can just start seizing assets in the state of New York. This is like very simple stuff. This is incredibly simple stuff. Up next, this is amazing. Watch this. I really don't like playing 10-second clips from news hits, but we'll play this one. Check this out.
No one's ever seen a bond this size. Every single person, when I came to them saying, hey, can I get a $500 million bond? Maria, they were laughing. They were laughing. Yeah. Top exec.
These are people who've never been told no in their entire fucking lives. And now they're being told no. And they're like, what do you mean no? What is this no that you keep telling me? Up next, Laura Trump is, she has some ideas on how to build a grassroots movement for the RNC. And it includes the QAnon conspiracy theorist Scott Pressler, who I believe is wearing a wig in most of his media appearances.
Question number 1. What are your plans for building a strong grassroots movement for the RNC? This is so very important within each state in order to grow the party and win in November. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, I mean, the grassroots is what makes this entire thing work, right? We can't just do this from some big apparatus in Washington, D.C. It's about everybody out there across the country. And I think there are so many great groups and organizations who have already gotten underway with so much over the past 8 years. We just have to tap into that. I can tell you one of the first things that I'm going to personally do is call a guy named Scott Pressler. And people who know this name, I talk about him a lot because I've always been very...
He's fucking crazy. I mean, he's fucking, Scott Pressler's fucking crazy.
Impressed with him just as an individual. This is one guy who probably has single-handedly registered more voters in this country than you and I can even imagine. And because of that energy, I'm
voter registration drives.
That, and I need people like that out there. So I'm calling Scott and I'm going to say, Scott, I want you as part of the team. Voter registration in a lot of places is already done. We've already registered tons of voters. However, what do we need to do now? Now we need to look towards when people actually start voting and early voting in the fall. How do we get their ballots? How do we capture huge groups of people who might be gathered together and capitalize on that if they are indeed likely voting Republican? Someone like Scott Pressler is exactly what we need out there. So I'm gonna
I don't know about that. He's first of all, he seems a little, as they might say, light in the loafers, and he might put off a lot of like traditional Republicans. I don't think he's gay, but I think they're going to think he's gay.
In the largest legal ballot harvesting operation in the entire country, and it'll be started by the RNC. But we need that all out across this country. We need people in every area of every state going to early vote and then going every single day from then on up until and on election day to take other people to go vote at the polling locations to make sure that we are turning out in huge...
This is like, you mean like the get out the vote effort that the Democrats have been engaged in for the last fucking 50 years?
Numbers. We need door knockers. If we know that we have an area of people who might be what we call low propensity voters, people who don't vote in every single presidential election, but when they vote Republican. If we can find those people, we need you to go knock on their door and say, hey, get out and vote. Or better yet, if it's an area you can ballot harvest, here's a ballot, you can fill it out and I will return it for you.
That's not how, whoa, you can't. I don't think there's anywhere where I can just bring somebody a fucking random ballot and that they could fill it out and I can be like, thanks, and then just turn it in for them. I don't think you can do that. I might be wrong, but I don't think you can do that. I think they have to get the fucking ballot mailed to you with your name on it and shit.
We're going to have to do this. And the only way we can make all of these things happen in truly short order is to tap in to the grassroots all around this country. So believe me, we are paying attention. We know what needs to happen and how we get there. It's about executing it. And, I think you're going to see very soon that we'll be reaching out to places near you or perhaps to you directly to be a part of this team because we've got to win in November. So that's the plan.
So I'm like 99% sure that what she just described, you can't do. Oh, somebody in chat said that there are places where you can do that. Oh, I didn't know. I thought it would, maybe, and it's going to vary state by state, but I'm pretty sure in California, the only ballot you can turn in is the one that comes in the mail, or if you go vote in person at the precinct and show show that you're registered. But I don't know. This would be a great time to have the councilman on, actually, because he's the one who knows those things. I'm just entertaining. So up next, we got Peter Navarro, who is definitely going to prison, is on the Don Jr. show and going to compare himself to a war hero, some kind of warrior. He's, you'll see. It's stupid.
It's like men and women of America throughout our history have shed blood, lost their lives for the defense of this country, defense of what we stand for, defense of our values, defense of the Constitution. And for me, it's a much smaller sacrifice to be willing to go to prison, as I now have been ordered to do.
Well, then that's not really a willing. You're not willing to go. I mean, I guess you could do something else, but to run, I suppose.
What is really one of the most important principles of the Constitution, which is the constitutional separation of powers. My hope and my mission here is that U.S. versus Peter Navarro will be, in fact, a landmark constitutional case. I believe it is, as it works its way through the appeals courts, on the constitutional separation of powers.
Okay, this is not like going to war. This is just going to jail. And he said, I'm willing to, I've been ordered to, but I'm also just willing. Well, you don't really have a whole lot of choice. There's not a lot of, not a lot of options. People who run have a low success rate on running. And that's just a regular person who basically no one knows. Peter Navarro is a public figure who a lot of people know. If I saw him, I'd be like, "Hey, wait a minute, aren't you on the run?" I mean, fuck the cops, but there's a time and a place for everything. So up next, don't want to spend too much time on this, but there was a Turning Point USA event in Memphis, Tennessee. And what happened was, so usually when Turning Point USA does an event, they're the ones who sell the tickets. I think that this university, if I understand correctly, this university is like, no, you have to just use the same ticketing system everyone else does. This is how we do it. This is just how we do it at our university. And so the tickets got bought up by random regular people, not by Turning Point USA supporters. And here is one of the exchanges from inside the event.
The CEO of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, has said a lot of racist things.
Like what racist thing has Charlie Kirk said? We're gonna have a little bit of a dialogue about what racist things has Charlie Kirk said.
Okay, I'll answer the question of racist things he said. He says we shouldn't celebrate Juneteenth. We shouldn't celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We should be working those days. It's called the Ketanji Brown Jackson affirmative action hire. He's talked nonsense about George Floyd, and he said he'd be scared if a black pilot was on a plane. Does that not seem racist?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, well, after all the things I just told you, would you consider that hate speech?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Didn't go so well when you can't control the audience like Turning Point usually does. Regular people at a university show up, and then he was just like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. What are you talking about? That can't be real." And so shortly after that, he left. He will claim that he was like chased out, but he left. He was not. Nobody rushed the stage. He was just booed off stage. Once you buy the ticket, you take the ride. If I went and gave a talk at a university, I would understand that there would be some chance that they would boo me off the stage. That's what an audience might do to you. So here's his take on what happened from Real America with, I can't read that, on a show called Real America.
Ticketing system that the university implemented to the protesters. So I showed up to a room full of protesters booing me and calling me a murderer because.
So this is what, again, you wanted to give a speech on the university campus. The university's policy was that if you give a speech on campus, we sell the tickets, or you use our ticketing system. That way, the university has an opportunity. The students at the university have an opportunity to go to the talk.
As a university censored Turning Point and took away their ticketing system and only allowed protesters and demonstrators in.
No, anybody could use the university's ticketing system. The thing is that the ticketing system, it was just open to everybody.
I spoke for about 2 minutes and they kept screaming at me. So ticketing system that the university implemented to the protesters. So I showed up to a room full of protesters.
So it started itself over. That's great. That's the Threads website. Wonderful website they got over there at Threads. His description of it is incorrect. It's just that somebody explained it on Twitter. I wish I remembered exactly, but it was that this is just how the university does business. If you have an event on campus, you use their ticketing system. That's it, because it's on campus. I'm actually surprised that that's just not how every university does it. You would think that the university, for any number of reasons, might want to use their own ticketing system. One, they know how many people are going to show up. Two, they make sure it's not overbooked. Three, if you rent a bigger hall and you don't sell as many tickets, maybe they put you in a smaller hall. There are any number of logistical reasons that a university might just want to use their own ticketing system if you're using their facilities to give a talk to their students. And in this case, then the ticketing system that then anybody can buy a ticket through the university ticketing system. That's it. Turning Point USA wanted to target specific people and try to keep it on the sneak, kind of, that the event was going to happen. They couldn't do that, and this is what happens. I don't know what else to tell you. Here, this is great. I don't even know the I don't even know the story here, but this is LSU, Louisiana State University's Kim Mulkey speaks on their rumored reports of an article that's going to be written about her. And this is weird. The way, like, how she talks about this is weird because there's no article yet. This is weird.
To publicly address what exactly this reporter for the Washington Post has been doing the past several years, and the lengths he has gone to try and put a hit piece together. This reporter has been working on a story about me for 2 years. After 2 years of trying to get me to sit with him for an interview, he contacts LSU on Tuesday as we were getting ready for the first round game of this tournament with more than a dozen questions, demanding a response by Thursday, right before we're scheduled to tip off.
Right, but this journalist that's working on this story has been trying to reach her so I don't know what the story's about, but they've been trying to reach her for comment, right? And she is unavailable for comment. She just won't talk to them. And so they're like, well, your job is to represent this university. So as in the course of my reporting, I'm going to ask some of these questions of the university themselves. I don't think the reporter gives two shits that fucking March Madness or whatever is about to start. I just don't think that's like, I don't think they're like, but they did it during March Madness. No, they've been trying to do this for 2 years and they got tired of trying to get you to fucking comment. So they reached out to the university that you represent. This is normal. The timing may bother this person, but it's not like they did it on Christmas or something. I don't care about Christmas, but you know.
Are you kidding me? This was a ridiculous deadline that LSU and I could not possibly meet, and the reporter knew it.
But there is no they reached out for comment. I'm telling you, she's acting like that somehow that the start of this tournament was a deadline for comment. Why would that doesn't make any sense.
It was just an attempt to prevent me from commenting and an attempt to distract us from this tournament. It ain't gonna work, buddy. Unfortunately.
What are the allegations, lady?
This is part of a pattern that goes back years. I told this reporter 2 years ago that I didn't appreciate the hit job he wrote on Brian Kelly. And that's why I wasn't going to do an interview with him. After that, the reporter...
Well, after you refuse an interview, the reporter, if they're trying to track down the story, they're supposed to be like, well, fucking, I guess no story here. This person won't answer. This person won't talk to me. That's how you do journalism, right?
Former college coaches of mine, and left multiple messages that he was with me in Baton Rouge to get them to call him back. Trying to trick these coaches into believing that I was working with the Washington Post on a story. When my former coaches spoke to him and found out that I wasn't talking with the reporter, they were just distraught. And they felt completely misled. Former players have told me that the Washington Post has contacted them and offered to let them be anonymous in a story if they'll say negative things about me.
Well, that's not really what they say if you, the way this works. I mean, I've had to do it recently. I'm like, I would love it if you would be able, if I could quote you. But if you want to have a discussion about this and I can't quote you and it has to be off the record, I would still like to have the discussion.
The Washington Post has called former disgruntled players to get negative quotes to include in their story. They're ignoring the 40 plus years of positive stories that people or they have heard from people about me. But you see,
they're ignoring all the people I didn't kill. It's sort of that logic, right? I mean, I don't think she killed anybody, but what I'm saying is that's almost like the same defense. But what about all those people I didn't harm?
To give a megaphone to a one-sided, embellished version of things aren't trying to tell the truth. They're trying to sell newspapers and feed the click machine. This is exactly why people don't trust journalists and the media anymore. It's these kinds of sleazy tactics and hatchet jobs that people are just tired of.
Oh, you know what's great about this is if they're at the reaching out for comment about the people from the people they're talking about, they're pretty much done with their reporting. So whatever this is coming out.
I'm fed up, and I'm not going to let the Washington Post attack this university, this awesome team of young women I have, or me without a fight. I've hired the best defamation law firm in the country.
Yeah, but they haven't published anything. I mean, I guess if you want to get ahead of it, but they haven't published anything.
And I will sue the Washington Post if they publish a false story about me. Not many people are in a position to hold these kind of journalists accountable.
So wait a minute. So she's like, I won't comment. I won't make a comment on the claims. I won't talk to them at all to try to clear up some of the things they're going to publish. And if they do publish, and I don't think it was characterized correctly, and they don't include my point of view, well, I'm going to sue them. Well, clearly you've been asked. Sorry about that. Clearly you've been asked if you could make a comment and give your point of view on what's going on here. And you've said no.
But I am. And I'll do it. That's all I'm going to say about this right now. And now I'm going to get back to talking about my basketball team and winning this game tomorrow.
All right, Coach.
So they haven't written a story, but it's going to be defamatory. I haven't commented on it, but they also need to give my side of the story. I'm going to have to take a look into this maybe during red light. We'll try to see what's going on here during the post game. If somebody can remind me of that, I would appreciate that. Up next, we got a bit of a palate cleanser. You ever found your casual kind of fast dining experience lacking? Just like lacking in sass and attitude and humor. Well, in Fresno, California, they have the answer for you.
I don't care. You know that shit? If you call me, damn, what the fuck? You the first time you call me, you don't know my shit look like yet, dude?
Bomb ass shit.
Mm-hmm. You see that shit?
Yeah.
You know what? Taste it?
No. Oh yeah, I'll try it.
Taste it better. Bomb ass shit or no, white boy?
Bomb ass shit.
Okay, no money back, right?
No money back.
Okay,
good.
Okay, number 3, number 4, number 5. Bring your ass right here. Number 7. Who number 3? Stand this line. Number 4, this line. Number 5, this line. Number 5.
Yes, that's me.
Huh? Number 7.
Right here.
Okay, stand the line, correct shit. Open your shit, look. You don't like it, the fuck out. I keep the money in your food. You see that shit? He hide the fork. I got a small ass fork, but I got a big ass plate.
Bomb ass shit.
Finger? Damn, you know what the fuck is fork right here? Hello, why don't you so? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, good shit.
Good shit. Bomb ass shit.
Okay, now I keep your money. Okay, bye bye. Thank you. Happy New Year. That's a basic ass one, but still good. No, not bad, huh? Too bad for you.
Fresno is only a few hours from here. I should go and check that restaurant out. That looks so much fun. Okay, so there's a guy named Steve Halloran. He is in Nebraska facing he's a Republican facing bipartisan calls to resign after he told a story of a sexual assault and put one of his colleagues' names in the story of sexual assault. They weren't involved in it in any way. He just wrote, I don't know if we would call it fanfic. This guy's a giant piece of shit. Here's some footage from the hearing at the Nebraska State Senate.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about a library book that I found in 16 different libraries across Nebraska. In 5 of these schools use this book as an accelerated reader, Senator Kavanaugh's, meaning they quiz the students for points after they read it. He began to knead his fist against the opening of my vagina, inserting his fingers into it 3 or 4 at a time. Something tore. I began to bleed there. I was wet now, Senator Kavanaugh. I was grounded on the ground trying to search about the filth of my clothes. He kicked me and I crawled into a ball. I want a blowjob, Senator Kavanaugh. I've never done it before, I said. I'm a virgin. Whoa. Put it in your mouth. I kneeled before him, Senator Kavanaugh.
I have done nothing but try to have a respectful debate with Senator Albright about her bill that impacts my children. That was so out of line and unnecessary and disgusting to say my name over and over again like that. That is so inappropriate. Don't start reading rape scenes and saying my name over and over again, Senator Halloran. You don't know anything about anyone else's life. And I can tell you that women in this body have been subject to sexual violence. I didn't know you were capable of such cruelty. That was so unbecoming of you and unbecoming of this body. And I hope that some other people who are Republicans will stand up and defend me. That was so inappropriate. And it was unbecoming for Senator Albright's priority bill. She has maintained a level of integrity in this debate, as have many of us, and you have not, Senator Halloran. That was obscene. I yield my time to the chair.
Yeah, yikes, dude. Fucking yikes. If you don't agree with the content of a book or whatever, that's one thing. But it's starting to inserting your colleague. It doesn't matter if you're a senator or somebody in the chat said in the military, you'd have some real problems if you fucking did that. You don't insert your colleagues in that. You don't make your colleagues one of the characters in a story about what seems to be describing a sexual assault. That's just I can't believe it. And honestly, I think that might be actually enough that this guy's going to get removed. I don't even know if the state Senate there has the ability to remove other members, but if they do, I think this might be too far, even for the crazies. They might be like, oh, this makes me look bad now. This makes me look real bad. So now we're going to move to another state Senate. This is in Arizona. This is Ava Bush, is a state senator, also a medical professional, if I'm not mistaken. She's a nurse, and she is going to talk to the Senate body, the Senate, about how about her decision to have an abortion. It's a little bit long, but we'll probably watch the whole thing. We got time tonight.
I rise today because I think it's important to acknowledge how this body has impacted my family and our journey, along with many others who are just like me. I don't know how many of you know this, but a few weeks ago I learned that, against all odds, I am pregnant. Many of you know that I've had kind of a rough journey with fertility. I had my first miscarriage more than 13 years ago, and I have been pregnant many times since then. Twice I was lucky enough to successfully carry to term, and I have 2 beautiful, healthy little boys. But 2 years ago, while I was campaigning for this Senate seat, I became pregnant with what we later determined was a non-viable pregnancy. It was a pregnancy that we had been trying for, and we were heartbroken over it. But now, I wish I could tell you otherwise, but after numerous ultrasounds and blood draws, we have determined that my pregnancy is once again not progressing and is not viable. And once again, I have scheduled an appointment to terminate my pregnancy. I don't think people should have to justify their abortions, but I'm choosing to talk about why I made this decision because I want us to be able to have meaningful conversations about the reality of how the work that we do in this body impacts people in the real world. For the last 12 years, I have worked both as an ER nurse and a nurse practitioner in a women's health clinic, and that experience informs the understanding that I have of my situation. Pregnancy, intended or otherwise, increase your risk for just about every health problem that a person can have. And that includes diabetes and high blood pressure and blood clots, anxiety, depression, arrhythmias, ischemic stroke, and I could go on. Pregnancy is not a health-neutral condition. Certainly, pregnancy carries more risk than abortion, which is a very low-risk procedure. And I say this not to try to discourage people from pregnancy. I'm so glad that I accepted those risks and carried my children. I just recognize them, because I think we have to be honest about the balance of risk and reward and why abortion can often be the right healthcare choice. I don't know how many of you have been unfortunate enough to experience a miscarriage before, but I am not interested in going through it unnecessarily. And right now, the safest and most appropriate treatment for me, and the treatment that I choose, is abortion. But the laws that this legislature has passed has interfered with my ability to do that, along with countless others. And I want to explain what I mean and why I'm still pregnant as I address all of you today, despite having known about the unavoidable demise of my pregnancy and despite having been to the abortion clinic on Friday where they were equipped and prepared to perform my abortion. First, I was required to have another ultrasound at the abortion clinic, as all patients seeking abortion are required to do in Arizona. An ultrasound that I absolutely did not need to have. I didn't have an ultrasound because my doctor thought I needed one. I had one because legislation has forced me to do that. An invasive transvaginal ultrasound that I didn't want or need to have, performed by someone who didn't want to have to do it. I am safe and loved and protected in my marriage, but I cannot imagine how inappropriate that would be for a victim of sexual assault or for someone who has an abusive or coercive relationship with their partner. Another unwanted vaginal penetration, but this time by the state, by the people who are commissioned to protect us. Then I got to sit through an exhaustive list of absolute disinformation that was read off to me. I was told that there were alternatives to abortion, parenting or adoption among them, as if delivering a healthy baby is an option for me. It is not. My medical provider was forced to tell me multiple things that don't apply to my situation, and some that are just transparently, factually false. And they do this because of laws passed by this legislature in opposition to medical expert testimony and advice. And from where I sat, the only reason I had to hear those things was in a cruel and really uninformed attempt by outside forces to shame and coerce and frighten me into making a different decision other than the one that I knew was right for me. There's no one-size-fits-all script for people seeking abortion care, and the legislature doesn't have any right to assign one. I'm a perfect example of why this relationship should be between patients and providers. All that the legislature has done is to nurture distrust and confusion in the relationship between patients and providers for people who are vulnerable enough. It's not the job of the medical provider to try to talk a patient out of a decision that they feel comfortable with. Providers want patients to be informed, but not coerced. At no point in either of my experiences at abortion clinics did I feel pressure from the provider to get an abortion. I felt compassion and kindness and empathy and understanding. The only guilt that I felt was for the providers who was forced to say things that they shouldn't have to say because of us. After the mandatory ultrasound and the mandatory disinformation, I'm then going to have to wait at least another 24 hours after my appointment before I can have a procedure. The last time that I had an abortion, I started to miscarry the night before it was scheduled to take place, and I was denied a procedure in the hospital because I was deemed not critical enough. In spite of the fact that my embryo had died and that my miscarriage had stalled, which left me with retained products of conception, the clauses for emergencies aren't good enough. These laws can serve to intimidate doctors, and it muddies the waters when they're trying to make complex decisions in situations that are really volatile. I had been bleeding and passing huge clots for hours, but I wasn't bleeding out. And I was still pregnant. So I was offered medication to make me start bleeding again and told that I could have a procedure when I had bled enough. A waiting period is often totally inappropriate and potentially dangerous. Doctors and patients should be making those determinations, not legislators who don't have to suffer through the consequences themselves. The next day, I went to the abortion clinic where I was able to get the care that I needed. And 2 weeks later, clinics shut down in the wake of Roe. And I wouldn't have been able to get my procedure. Arizonans really agree that decisions should be between providers and patients and that the legislature should stay out of it. We know what happens to patients who seek abortion for any reason and aren't able to get one. We have lots of data on the subject, and notably Dr. Foster's Turnaway study, but there's others. Those individuals who are denied abortion are more likely to be victims of domestic violence, more likely to be evicted, more likely to file for bankruptcy, and their living children are more likely to have developmental delays. They have more long-term health consequences, and they're less likely to be able to afford the basic needs for their households. And that's a short and incomplete list of the poor outcomes that families face when their choices are taken away from them. Generally speaking, people seek abortion for the same reason that I did. I'm choosing abortion because I'm pregnant and for reasons that I should not have to explain to you or to the church or to the state of Arizona. I need to not be pregnant anymore. That's the best outcome for me. Now, I understand that there are a lot of sensitive feelings surrounding pregnancy and that there are philosophical questions that people cannot agree on. But leaders and experts have been talking about those things for years in this country, and if doctors and political leaders and advocacy organizations and religious organizations and faith groups and scientists have not been able to come to any consensus about the answers to these complicated questions, then I think we can all agree that the right people for that job are not here in the Arizona legislature. Arizonans deserve the freedom and the liberty to make those decisions for themselves. I will never try to force someone to have an abortion. And nobody should ever try to prevent me from having mine. My experiences in this space, both as a provider and as a patient, have led me to believe that this legislature has failed the people of Arizona in the laws that restrict and dictate abortion and in the resources that it cuts and strangles and denies at every opportunity. I'm really grateful that I am privileged to be able to make the right decision for myself and my family. I caught my pregnancy early. I can afford all those doctor visits. I can take time off work when I need to. But I call on this legislative body to pass laws that make sure every Arizonan has the opportunity to make decisions that are right for them. Our decision-making should be grounded in expert testimony and in consensus from both the medical community and from constituents, and free from political posturing and partisan bias, but that's not what I see happening. So I truly hope that Arizonans have the opportunity to weigh in on abortion on the ballot in November. We know that the majority of Arizonans support the right to abortion, and if we can't operate in that reality in this chamber, then it is critical that everyone have the opportunity for their voices to be heard elsewhere. I stand with those who have had to grapple with and navigate Arizona's restrictive laws surrounding abortion in a time when the decisions being made were complicated enough. I'm with them.
So Arizona is like on the tipping point too. They've gone Democrat in the presidential election for a couple times now, or last time. And if this is the issue in Arizona, if this stuff is, if the Democrats can actually fucking message on this, they'll do well in Arizona, regardless of the feckless and useless nature of the fucking Democratic Party. They'll be able to do okay, but they'll probably fuck this up just like they fuck everything up. But hope springs eternal. Now we're going to move on. It's going to start getting a little bit more cooked as we start getting closer to red light. This is Michael Knowles. He's just going to, I don't know if you know this, gay marriage doesn't exist.
Death taxes in marriage as it is right now.
Yeah, I love this Michael Knowles clip again. Not as big as him saying we should eradicate all trans people, but he's out here saying that marriage is like this natural phenomenon. Like, no, dog, it's an institution we invented.
Yes.
We can decide the rules for it. And it's crazy because, gay marriage has been legal for 10 years now. This seems like pretty clear evidence here that he wants to reverse that decision.
Yes, I certainly do. But whether we
wait, who are those twinks?
The Obergefell decision or not, gay marriage.
These people, this is worse than what Ben Shapiro does. Ben Shapiro will just like shout down a 19-year-old at a fucking event. This guy's like arguing with some fucking 19-year-old who isn't even there.
10 years. Gay marriage doesn't exist because it's not possible. No knock. I got.
What do you mean it's not possible? No, that the young man was right. He was like, "This is an institution we invented, and we can define the rules for it." That's the absolute. That's the absolute fucking. That's true. Somebody in chat says those two that people that do that show are cool. If they're cool, you should maybe chat should reach out. They should have me on.
I went to a very gay university, and I'm from New York, and I lived in LA. So I'm not. This has nothing to do with, the icky gays or whatever. It's just not possible. It's just not what marriage is. It
is now, fucker.
As we just discussed, sexual difference, complementarity, is part of the very definition of marriage. And that derives.
No. I mean, you may think that that's important for your marriage, but as far as the United States government's concerned, that is a contract. That's all. It is a contract.
Not from some thought in that guy's head, but from nature. So, yeah, we can pass a court decision or whatever. It's not going to change whatever word you want to use for it. The union that creates and educates children and mutually supports the spouses. That's just going to be what it is. I don't know how old these guys are. It's
20, 19.
You're crazy. I mean, gay marriage has been around for 10 years. Just listen.
Dude, that young man would absolutely wreck you if you and he had equal time, your own mics, and a moderator.
All of human history, which these guys think goes on for, millions of years. These guys, they don't measure human history in thousands or tens of thousands of years. They think it's, been going on for much longer.
What the fuck?
All of that time, there was no such thing as gay marriage anywhere on earth. And then 10 years ago, this judge on the Supreme Court wrote some romantic poetry and said, actually, there's a thing called gay marriage. And he says, see, there's the proof. Well, hold on, bro. Hold on. You're saying for all of history everywhere, there's this thing. And then 5 seconds ago, someone said it's not that thing. Wouldn't you probably side with what everyone everywhere has always thought forever?
No.
That's probably what I would do.
So what's missing from this, and I feel like I'm fucking going to state the obvious, I really do, is that prior to the Obergefell decision, gay people were engaged in what were functionally marriages. When I was a kid, my mom's best friend was a gay man, and he had the same partner the whole time, all grown up. That was a marriage. It was functionally a marriage. It didn't matter really that they didn't have the documentation, and that's been the case for gay people for time immemorial. Whether or not gay marriage was legal, there've been gay and lesbian and bisexual people in relationships that we would call gay relationships that are functionally marriages. They fucking share responsibilities and share life together. That's what marriage is. And so it sort of always was there, actually. Just wasn't recognized by our bigoted fucking government institutions. Here's one's funny. This is one Mr. Charles Kirk doing an ad for Midas Touch. Midas Touch is one of those sort of like Media Matters kind of organizations. They broadcast on Twitch. They were actually live before I started. I was just checking. I always check to see who's live so that I can throw shade at people for not rating us later. But I noticed they were live, and they do sort of the same thing Media Matters or Right Wing Watch does. They do a lot of clipping of people like Charlie Kirk. And so here's Charlie Kirk basically doing a commercial for Midas Touch.
A very important story about Midas Touch. Raheem, welcome to the program. Walk our audience through the story and how it ties into the social media landscape.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. The group Midas Touch, which I think a lot of people might have seen in passing on social media, but have never really understood quite, who they are. They have been very clearly amassing a power base on the political left that is putting the old hat groups like David Brock's Media Matters and others, putting them out of business, quite frankly. They're faster, they're sharper, they're more impactful. And if you are somebody on the political left who wants lots of misinformation and disinformation peddled about Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, then right now, Midas Touch is where you go. If you look on YouTube, if you look on TikTok, if you look on X, the numbers they're getting are just absolutely extraordinary.
But not here on Twitch.
Extremely well hooked up. They are being leveraged now by the Biden campaign and the DNC.
And they're not just going after Trump. Their strategy is to go after the entire MAGA movement. That is really what's here.
So I see some disagreement in chat. That's fine. That's fine. I noticed that they just do what Right Wing Watch does for the most part. They just clip these people out. That's what Media Matters has been doing forever too. But they do remind me, I don't know if anybody does anybody here remember Upworthy? Remember that I remember at Netroots Nation 2013, everybody was talking shit on Upworthy because it was just fucking wall-to-wall clickbait. It was generally pretty okay factually, but it was just absolutely like designed to get you to click and go over to their website for ads. And I do get some of that vibe from Midas Touch, but in the end, like functionally, they're just doing what Right Wing Watch and Media Matters do. Most of what they do is simply clipping out idiots like Charlie Kirk and then monetizing it. And it's not too, I mean, I use some of their clips here. It's not too terribly different than what I'm doing. And this show relies on, we every time Right Wing Watch, sometimes you bring up a thing from Right Wing Watch and they'll have their little ad for themselves at the end and we're all, shout out to Right Wing Watch. Well, I mean, Midas Touch does pretty much the same thing. And I don't use them as much, but I don't think I could do this Sunday show without Media Matters, Right Wing Watch, and Midas Touch, I suppose now, because I don't have time to watch all this shit. Anyway, here's more of one Mr. Charlie Kirk. This is what happens if you go see a movie. So don't go see a movie, I guess.
I want to play this piece of tape here. Here is cut 62 of a Venezuelan bragging on social media. Hey, if you come into this country illegally, just go take over homes. Because if you go into a home that is vacant, that home can be yours. Play cut 62.
So this illegal from TikTok is back, spreading a message that you guys won't believe. Now, he's speaking in Spanish like this, so I'm going to read the subtitles for you. My people have thought about invading a house in the United States because I learned that there is a law that says that if a house is not inhabited, we can expropriate it. And I think that will be my next business.
He's talking about squatters' rights.
Invade abandoned houses.
So that is an illegal in this country that is going on social media telling his other illegal friends, guys, just go take over homes. In America, they won't kick you out. This is about to become orchestrated. They are going to flood the zone. And you might go out to dinner, go see a movie, and come back to a bunch of illegals sitting in your living room. And it will then become their home. Bernie Moreno joins us next.
That's okay. So first of all, I thought that the clip he played, the guy said that the young man in that was from Mexico, not in the United States. I could be wrong though. But they're just talking about squatters' rights. And I believe Kavass in the chat was saying, it's actually pretty hard to get any rights as a squatter in the United States. Like, you just don't generally get those rights, actually. And it's, you can't just randomly find an abandoned house and just go live in it. It's like these things are very specific, and they vary greatly place by place. And I think the person who made that video, we were 3 layers deep on that. The young man in the video they showed probably just didn't understand what the squatters' rights rules were or whatever. The other thing is the video could have been a joke. Anyway, up next, we got a story from one more Mr. Charlie Kirk here. This is they're going to talk about Haiti. This is going to be, it's going to be a little more extra than you probably expect, actually.
One is like a lush tropical resort, and the other is a complete wasteland filled with cannibal gangs.
And it's important to note that Haiti is legitimately infested with demonic voodoo. Can you talk about this, Blake?
Yeah,
Wait, what?
I'm like weirdly
demonic voodoo?
More sympathetic to Haiti.
In the Western Hemisphere.
Say that again, Jack.
Well, so voodoo, it's really where Haiti is, where voodoo comes from in the Western Hemisphere. So it's brought from a lot of much more ancient tribal African practices that were brought along.
It's literally just a religion.
Forcefully brought to the Caribbean, but it really was Haiti.
Like, in fact, without what they're describing, without the thing that they're describing as voodoo, New Orleans would not be fucking as cool as it is.
Where voodoo made itself, planted its flag in the Western world, in the Western Hemisphere. You see this spread throughout the other islands. You see, these types of practices, and a lot of like blending of West African traditions with Christianity and Catholicism. Again, Spanish, French empires, you get Catholicism there. And they come up with these very bizarre, very dark, demonic, occult practices that are going on, in many cases, completely subverting Christianity and Christian symbols for use in these practices. And so you'll have cases.
Wait, are they accusing these people of cultural appropriation?
The killing and the ritual killing and the ritual ingestion of flesh, let's just say it, ingestion of flesh, is done as part of these rituals. In fact, during the slave revolt, or one of the early revolts going on back in 1804, one of the leaders of this was himself a shaman of sorts, a witchcraft shaman of sorts, and they were sacrificed animals, pass around the cup of blood for everyone to take part in, to kind of give them the blood rage, and then they would go off and start killing all of the plantation owners.
Fuck.
I mean, what's crazy with voodoo is it's very much it's a belief with where the supernatural has a lot of impact on your life. So they very much believe in the power of magic, that you can put curses on people, that you can cast spells on people.
Yeah, but that's because people religious stuff, people believe all kind of stuff that other people don't believe. That's what religion is. It's like belief in a metaphysics or the supernatural, basically.
And the famous voodoo doll is just sort of a fictional trope version of this. I don't know if they specifically do it that way, but the general idea...
Dude's like, I don't know shit about this, actually, but I'm giving my opinion anyway.
That someone can put a curse on you, and there's all sorts of people who have magic, so there's witches everywhere. So there's a voodoo
There's witches
idea
everywhere, everybody. No, that's just my chat on Thursday night.
that women can turn into these sort of animals and suck your blood at night, or there's another cult where people can turn into dogs, and of course zombies. The word zombie comes from voodoo.
So zombieism is really from this entire culture.
Yeah,
this is where it comes.
And in their version of it, it's more like they can kind of enslave a person, they can kind of kill you but control your body. And I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I think there's cases where the power of suggestion is so strong that people have basically become zombies because they believe that they are a zombie. And
get the fuck out of here. This is fucking amazing. Listen, 5 years ago, somebody would have said that I'd be watching a Turning Point USA fucking show and they'd be talking about fucking actual real zombies in Haiti. I'd have been like, I don't know about that. That sounds like some fucking Cat Kerr shit.
It's so powerful on it. But the big picture here, of course, is there's all this trouble in Haiti yet again. If you're 30 years old, this is probably about the 8th or 9th time there's been some massive crisis in Haiti, and the government's a mess, and there's gangs in the streets, and they're doing all of this stuff, and there's never any progress. And it circles back around to a discussion we've had on here before. What if the
discussion you've had there before is black people bad?
I'm here is, should somebody colonize Haiti, basically?
No. Why would you want that?
There's really no reason to do it. I think the only reason to do it is
colonize Greenland.
That would be a great idea.
Okay,
I'm fully in favor of that.
Tons of land.
All for it. Okay,
uninhabited
maybe it's
largely.
Literally,
you have Nook.
What if you said
Greenland, ironically, is covered in ice?
China can colonize Haiti.
I think it would be terrific. I think that I think China should have to try to figure out Haiti.
Because there's sort of this, it gets at, I think, the flaws or the shortcomings of, if you want to call it, our global neoliberal order post Cold War, where what we do is we very much perpetuate a system that is clearly essentially hopeless. Haiti's government is a complete calamitous disaster, and it is not serving the people of Haiti, and it's not serving any of their neighbors for us to prop up what is clearly a disaster where, just an armed mercenary gang can murder your president, and they literally...
But that's what you want here in the U.S.
anymore. It's so bad we can't even tell, are they canceling elections because they just want to be dictators, or are they canceling elections because they are not even capable of organizing a vote by the public? That is the level of state failure that we are at. And in the past, 1,000 years ago, it was not possible to have a failed state like this, because if you were that much of a disaster, your neighbors came in and just took you over. And now instead what we do is we have the international community, and we have the United Nations, and we have humanitarian missions, and we're basically just dumping, food and medical supplies into this anarchic, disaster state.
I don't know if it's fixable. And the reason is that I think, first of all, I think part of the country is literally under a spiritual oppression. I've talked to missionaries that have gone there.
Thank you for bringing it back to the ridiculous part.
See, they've seen the darkest stuff that a human being can see. In fact, I know people that went to Haiti passively as agnostic atheists, and they came back searching for Jesus because they saw legit demonic activity.
Whoa! Do they say any more?
Yeah, there was one guy who saw.
I don't believe Charlie.
Somebody who literally didn't sleep for 2 weeks. And would just
Charlie, that's just a meth head.
Literally run around and not sleep for 2 weeks. Ran through the whole island with supernatural type capacity. There are claims that people have seen,
fucking shut up. Your friend was lying to you, right? They were like, "Oh, tell that to Charlie. He'll believe anything."
Quasi levitation stuff.
Yeah. Quasi levitation. Well, you're either levitating or you're not.
And then. Andrew says this was very common. Yeah. Here's one that when Andrew was in Haiti, there were common stories about people turning into cats at night, which I don't know. They all knew someone that turned into cats. Again, I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure about that. Charlie, I'm pretty sure about that. I'm pretty sure people don't just turn into a cat at night.
I haven't heard that. But this supernatural energy, or just also the stuff where, you look in the Hollywood films where someone looks possessed, right? Imagine entire towns that look that way.
Yeah.
Where it's just and then there's a lot of churches there too, and it's growing, but Haitian voodoo culture is legit. 1 out of 3 people in Haiti participate, and they sacrifice animals, and they do pagan blood rituals.
I think most people are inclined not to harm animals.
So, yeah.
It doesn't seem to have worked out for them.
But I guess it depends who you consider to be people.
No, I mean, yeah, look, show me a pagan culture that sustainably can survive, and, there's a reason why the Aztecs are
India?
No longer around.
Didn't we? Yeah, there is actually. Yep. There's a reason actually that civilization is no longer around, Charlie. And it isn't because they had the wrong imaginary friend. They had a ruthless, real enemy. Up next, I'd forgotten about this George Galloway person. He's definitely, as Michael Brooks used to call it, the dumb left. Here he is with Russell Brand, and he's going to say some shit. Let me tell you.
Well, no farmers, no food. And I'll be on Parliament Square on Monday meeting the British farmers who've joined that worldwide movement. And we have to defend our ability to grow our own food. The idea that we can close down...
The idea that these people have this like antiquated version of farming, like mom, pa, kettle and shit. Most of your food is just grown on by these giant industrial farms.
Our farms under the bogus climate change, apocalyptic catastrophism of the so-called climate change, extinction rebellion, and so on, is perfectly absurd. What we're going to do, eat insects?
Yes.
Eat bugs?
We already do.
Some of us will never do that. Some of us are unreconstructed.
Food with dye in it?
Red meat eating white straight males. I'll get my coat. I know I'm no longer wanted.
Okay, so there's like some, like, you have to have a grain of truth in your dumb conspiracy theory. And these big industrial farmers have made it hard for small and even medium-sized farms, not just family-owned farms, but just even small and medium-sized businesses that are doing farming. It's getting harder and harder for them. But that's not the critique here, right? He started talking about it at the end. This is some new world order shit. And so it's not helpful for the people who might actually need some solidarity and support, who do want to grow their own food or grow food for their community. It's getting harder and harder for them to do it through any number of horrible practices by corporations who sell seeds, etc. But this ain't it. This ain't going to help those people. This in fact just makes them look like fucking kooks. That's all. It makes them look like kooks, even though most of them probably aren't kooks. They're just like trying to fucking grow their food and shit, and they're being stepped on by like large corporate behemoths, essentially. But again, this is where Dave says the thing. This is about the individuals, not about the system. Where if you yourself can be awake and aware of the fucking bug eating fucking whatever, you're helping the farmers, and that way you don't have to address the systems, the ways in which it is tough for a small business to do farming. You don't have to address any of that because now you're awake and aware. Up next, we got Matt Walsh, employment expert.
And notice how this man, he isn't even saying that he identifies as trans, right? This isn't a man who identifies as a woman. And it's bad enough when intelligence officers, people in government, particularly people in the intelligence agencies, identify as trans. That's concerning enough, because that means that we have people in the intelligence field who are deeply confused about the basic facts of reality and of.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal with that, actually. So the intelligence apparatus has always been woke. And it's not for any ideological reason. It's that if they want to infiltrate and do a bunch of fucking terrible shit all over the world, they're going to need a bunch of different kind of fucking people to do it. And so having a diverse group of ghouls working for them is actually the best way to do it. Because if everybody in the intelligence field looked like a Fed, right? If they all looked like fucking Fox Mulder, everybody would be like, oh, that's the Fed.
Of themselves. And so that makes you question everything else that they say. Like any intelligence that they do obtain, you have to question it, because it's like, well, in what reality did you obtain this intelligence? Like, what reality are you operating in right now? Because
this is also some fucking weird James Bond fucking shit. Like, most of the intelligence being done is like signals intelligence. It's not, you're not like going into a place and spying on people. But again, to get signals intelligence, if you got to go live somewhere or whatever, maybe you got to go live in the Castro. For whatever reason, I don't know, you got to go live in like a gay district to gather intelligence on something. Well, if you're a trans person, probably not going to get fed jacketed.
You know, you're trying to live in a reality that doesn't exist. You're living every day in a fantasy land where you're a woman when you're not. So you're confused about that. And we have to ask, what else are you confused about? Because if you can be confused about something as basic as that, about who you are, what you are, about what a woman is, and so on, if you can be confused about that, then you could plausibly be confused about anything, which makes you unfit for this job, and it makes you unfit for, frankly, most employment. Because, I mean, there may be some jobs out there where it doesn't really matter if you're grounded in reality or not while you do it. Oh, yeah, there are some jobs like that. But any job where the reality actually matters, you're seriously called into question. So that
No. Being an intelligence gathering, to the extent that you have to do any of it in person, what's most important actually is that you can travel in the community, mostly unnoticed or even liked by the community as you go to gather intelligence. That's very important. Otherwise, you end up dead, or people just don't trust you.
That's a problem. That's bad. But this is arguably even worse, or at least it's very bad in a slightly different way, because in this case, it's not even a man who identifies as a woman. It's a man who knows that he's a man, and yet who gets a thrill out of wearing women's clothes. So this is explicitly...
No, but that's a cross-dresser.
Forwardly a fetish.
Right, that's a cross-dresser. And again, that's fine too. Fuck if it turns you on to cross-dress, fucking let your freak flag fly.
That's the case with a lot of transgenderism too, obviously, but here it's just outright. This is a fetish. He has a fetish for wearing women's clothes.
Well, it's fucking none of my business.
He's doing it at work, on the job.
Okay, well, that's still none of my business.
Agencies have become a forum for fetishists to perform in public. It's sick. This is truly fall of empire type stuff that we see.
Does he not know that intelligence organizations, let's take sexual identity off the table here, because this is stupid. Like, it's obvious why you would want, if you were gathering intelligence, and for some reason in Paris, you were gathering intelligence about someone who traveled in the gay community there. Well, let me tell you, a person who, having a gay person gathering that intelligence would be smart. But these intelligence gathering operations, they will work with anybody who they think can travel in a group. They'll work with some of the worst people in the world. They don't actually care. You can call that woke if you want. It's just getting the intelligence, getting the information by whatever means are necessary. Usually means that would shock and horrify most of us. Anyway, we got 2 more clips. This is something that unfortunately we're not going to be able to watch in long form on the Intellectual Dollar Tree because of Twitch's dumb terms of service, that if somebody gets kicked off of Twitch, you can't watch their content except for like short clips of it if it's newsworthy. I think they need to update that. I think it needs to be that if something is newsworthy, I should be able to comment on it, whether or not that person's been kicked off of Twitch. And I think, I don't have a big channel, but I think we may be seeing something like that coming down the pike. Hopefully, that would be great. Anyway, Steve Bonnell, Destiny, spoke with Jordan Peterson, and Chris Kavanaugh, Chris Kavanaugh is a friend of the show, does Decoding the Gurus. Every time I talk about this, I don't always agree with those two guys, but I do recommend their content because they look at like mostly American, or mostly people who are popular in America as like internet gurus or whatever, and they look at it from a perspective outside of the United States. And I think that's valuable in a lot of ways. Plus, I actually think Chris Kavanaugh is a pretty nice guy and very funny. So here is Jordan Peterson talking to Steve Bonnell about whether or not the Nazis were right or left wing.
It's because Hitler's lack of trying led him to kill less people than who ended up dying during the Great Leap Forward or during the industrialization of the
Yes, well, I also think it's an open question still to what degree Hitler's policies were right-wing versus left-wing, and no one's done the analysis properly yet to determine that.
Well, what do we consider?
Because it was a national socialist movement for a reason, and the socialist part of it wasn't accidental.
Well, but there was no, cooperatively formed businesses that were owned by all of the people for the people and distributed to the people. And I don't think redistribution was high on Hitler's list of things to do for.
That's true. It was a strange mix of totalitarian policy.
I don't think it was a strange mix. I think it was a bid to appeal to mid-left and center-left, the KPD and the German Socialist Party by calling themselves National Socialists. I think it was very much like an authoritarian, ultra-nationalist regime that pretty squarely fits with. People get mad if you call something far right or far left because they have an
well, one of the things I would have done if I would have been able to hang on to my professorship at the University of Toronto would have been to extract out a random sample of Nazi policies and strip them of markers of their origin and present them to a set of people with conservative or leftist beliefs and see who agreed with them more. And that analysis.
But wait, a random, that's the dumbest fuck. You just pick out 50 policies at random that happened during that time. The problem is not individual. It was the totality of the policies and how they were enacted and who they were enacted on. Like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Never been done as far as I know. So we actually don't know. And we could know if the social scientists would do their bloody job, which they don't, generally speaking. That's something we could know. We could probably use the AI systems we have now, the large language models, to determine to what degree left and right beliefs intermingled in the rise of National Socialism.
Oh, that's great. We'll have an AI do it. We'll have a large language model that hallucinates tell us.
So that's all technically possible. So, and it has to be done, so it's a matter of opinion.
Sure. So, I don't necessarily disagree. That's something you...
Oh, I do. What do you mean I don't necessarily disagree? Yeah, you do. You do. It was weird. It's a little bit weird seeing him be like kind of deferential as well to Peterson, because this is not, this channel, we're not big fans of Steve, but some of the better work he's done as a public figure has been just absolutely taking down fucking people who have the belief system that's very similar to Jordan Peterson. And it seems like as his platform, or as his, as he becomes more almost mainstreamed or whatever, he's getting IDW brain a little bit. There's always been problems, but I just don't know if 4 years ago he would have just politely sat there while Peterson talked over him. Who knows though? He's in it for the fame, baby. Same as me. He's just actually got fame, I suppose.
We don't generally use force to invade people's bodies.
How long have vaccine mandates been a thing in Canada, the United States, and the entire world?
I don't think they should have been a thing.
That's great if you don't think they should have been, but when you say we don't generally use force, we absolutely use force. We've enforced vaccines for a long time. It's an important part of public health.
Fair enough. We did it on a scale and at a rate during the COVID pandemic, so-called pandemic, that was unparalleled. And the consequence of that was that we injected billions of people with an experimental, and it wasn't a bloody vaccine.
Of course
no, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
That's Jordan Peterson is never. He's stunned that somebody would just be like, "This is false." That the thing you're saying is false. He's just stunned that anybody would just be like, "No, you're wrong, absolutely fucking wrong." It's funny because he gets fucking so mad so quick.
Does it have a 100% success rate? You think it's a definition of vaccine? The whole point of the vaccine is to give your body a protein to train on so that your immune system works. Who cares if it's not the same? There's different types.
They used the word vaccine so that they didn't have to contend with the fact that it wasn't the same technology.
There are different types of vaccines that are different technologies.
Fine.
The mRNA vaccines is a type of vaccine technology.
Vaccines. Now this is vaccines.
No, it was like this and now it's like this.
No. It was like this and now it's like this. The mRNA technology was a radical, qualitative leap forward in technology. You can call it a vaccine if you want to, but it bears very little resemblance to any vaccine that went before that. And the reason it was called a vaccine was because vaccine was a brand name that had a track record of safety, and shoehorning it in that was one of the ways to make sure that people...
Okay, again, I don't like Steve, but it's a crying shame that we can't watch that whole thing on Intellectual Dollar Tree. I did see some people in chat saying that other bigger streamers have watched stuff with Stephen Bonnell in it. The thing about that is, and we're going to end the show here, but maybe the people on the podcast might understand, if something, if an algorithmic system flags that on my channel, I don't have the reach to get it remedied. Whereas somebody with hundreds of thousands of followers probably does. So I just feel like I have to be incredibly careful. But it was funny watching old fucking Beef and Benzos just get fucking mad as shit that somebody was like, yes, it is, when he said, no, it's not. He was like, what? You don't do that to me. That's amazing. And with that, the lights are flashing in the fucking studio again because they're fucking possessed. That's the end of the podcast. I want to thank everybody for watching live, and thanks everybody for listening on the podcast apps. You should check us out live every Sunday. That's 7 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch. And if you're not available on Sunday, you can just check us out all the time. It's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Make sure you support this project. Just go to echoplexmedia.com and hit the support tab. Find your favorite way. That's the end of the pod. I'll see everybody who's live. Stick around. We're going into red light. And as always, this is Boomers by Periscope.